I went to see a sleep expert a while ago, and I told him that I thought 10% or more of the population were going to be dying 10 years younger because of sleep apnea and its consequences. And he goes, Mike, it's closer to 20.
Today's guest is Dr. Mike Mew, the most controversial dentist on the planet. He's identified a potentially life-changing method to help reshape your face and fix a number of orthodontic issues. Mewing has gone viral on TikTok and YouTube, and his aim is to change sections of modern medicine through an evidence-based approach. If you were a fan of the James Nestor podcast, where we discuss the amazing effects of breathwork and breathing through your nose, Dr. Mew is the doctor that was referenced in his book. His apparently radical opinions on the medical industry have led to the big players in medicine attempting to silence him, yet he still stands. Enjoy the podcast.
The Way of Will John.
Guys, what's up? We have with us today Dr. Mike Mew, who is going to explain himself, because there's absolutely no way that I could do any justice to all the stuff that you're doing. So, Dr. Mew, how's it going? How are you doing? First off, are you staying cool? Because you guys are.
It is very warm here. They reckon it's going to be the hottest day ever in the United Kingdom today. And we're just not prepared for that. You know, you don't imagine the UK as being this sweltering country, because we're not. And William, as you know, we can't cope when it gets hot here. Totally.
So why don't you tell us how you got into this? What is the background behind this? I know this is a family.
It is a family
endeavor.
Thing. So. But always the question I like to pose to people when I'm trying to explain such an open question is, why are teeth crooked? Now, that might sound a silly question, but so there are times when you open Pandora's box and you just weren't expecting something to come out. You know, you ask one question, who knows where it's going to lead? What we observe is people with good facial development tend to have straight teeth. They also tend to be healthier. People whose facial development isn't so good tend to have crooked teeth, and they often have health issues. I think, this first time I've ever been interviewed by within a sports scenario. And one thing that I'd always been thinking about is the fact when you look at 100-meter runners, they've nearly all got nearly perfect craniofacial structure. Just look at the 100-meter winners. All of them have got fantastic bone structure. Almost always these big, broad, wide smiles with naturally straight teeth. Now, if you're going to be in the 100 meters final at the Olympics, you've got a decent body. You've got a decent structure. You're pretty healthy. And what I'm thinking here is that fine detail, you've got to have everything growing for you. You've got to have a system that works. And a facial structure that's the right shape works well.
That's something that I find really interesting, because getting straight into what mewing is and what you do and how you've got this basis and behind it. Why don't you tell us first off what would be your title? To
me, my work job title is an orthodontist.
Okay, so you're working within the orthodontics field.
So I'm kind of working within the orthodontic field. The orthodontic field's about making teeth straight. Kids have got crooked teeth. If there's too many teeth, they take them out. They make the rest straight. Then they hold them straight for the rest of someone's lives. Now, I'm not totally happy with that scenario. Go back 400, 500, 600 years. Go back a few thousand years. Everyone had perfectly straight teeth. They had really good craniofacial structure, bone structure on the face. They didn't have extra teeth. All my fingers fit on my hands. No one had extra teeth in their mouth. Now, very few people today get their wisdom teeth present. What's happening? Clearly, if you have a better bone structure, you're more likely to have space for your wisdom teeth. The fact that we now don't have space for our wisdom teeth, I think is an alarm bell going off that no one's listening to. It may surprise people, but within our profession, we don't know why teeth are crooked. Here's a sign of they think they know 5% of the cases. That's it. And I don't think they even know much about that 5% because we just don't know much. We're treating it as if it were genetic, as if but this comes into this really difficult question that if crooked teeth isn't genetic, if it's something to do with the modern environment, the way we're living, how we are, then the way your face grows is also influenced by the modern environment. And that's a difficult one. It's one people don't want to think about. See someone who's had a stroke, and you can see one side of the face just drops down. You know that happens, so you know I'm right. But it just conflicts with what you want to believe. Because you want to believe that the way your face has grown is genetic. And yet you are going to look like your parents.
Right.
Of course you're going to do. If you've got the same genes and you're in the same environment, you'll probably have the same problems.
So with that being in mind here, I can understand that everybody is going to have a hard time believing, obviously, that they can change the structure of their face. I get it. That's not something that
they know that's true. When you look at the experiments of nature, you know it's true.
Right. But we don't talk about that. We don't think about that. And also, we don't have anything within our society. And I think the current prevailing understanding is, of course, that if there's anything wrong with your body almost, and just due to the nature of the advancements in our understanding of DNA and genes, we have come to believe that is what is the controlling factor within our lives and for all of our things, and no different, right? Within my face and jaw. And so I'm curious. I'm sure there's been a lot of pushback because you've developed a system, right? Or is that an understatement?
A profession.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't do that. That's not good for your health or your.
But that seems so ridiculous, though. It seems so ridiculous because if we're just yanking out teeth, and you're telling me we don't know why the teeth are crooked, but we're just going to yank them out. It means that we're not understanding in a perfect what's going on. And if the problem or the solution, at least that you've kind of tapped on that you guys have, is that it could be mushy. The food. I'm not sure actually what else. So why don't I just ask that question? Okay. What's causing it?
Okay, so seems to me with two major things have changed, and then some minor things have changed. We've gone from this incredibly rough, tough, hard diet that was very calorie poor. So you needed to eat a lot of it. Even if it wasn't rough and tough, you just ate a lot. We've gone across this diet that is it's so soft. And, I could easily, in a cup this big, put a quarter of your daily calorific requirement. Calories, not nutrition. Now, a nice marshmallow, cafe mocha, whatever, with some syrup. You could pile the calories. It will probably taste great. But how much chewing did you need to do to get that? Basically nothing. Right. You didn't have to chew at all. So we're not using these puppies. All of this musculature, you don't use it, you lose it. I've got a strong jaw. I've got strong jaw muscles. Famously strong jaw muscles. That's, if you're familiar with Wolff's Law, that's Wolff's Law down the line. It's simple, use it and lose it. Strong jaw muscles. How do you get strong jaw muscles? Use them. The other thing that's happening is we're getting blocked noses. Now, if you get a blocked nose, you have to breathe. You're going to open your lip seal, break lip seal. You're going to drop your tongue off the roof of the mouth, lose that tongue to palate contact. Now, those are two vital reflexes. Tongue to palate contact, I believe, is really important on the whole muscle train up the front of the body. It's helping hold your head up. It is a really important reflex, this deep frontal line. There's the tongue at the top of the deep frontal line. Then you've got the lip seal. That's really important. You've got lots of sphincters in your body. Don't lose control of any of them. Top tip. Anyway, if you're breathing through. If you have to breathe, you're going to throw these things away, however important they are, because breathing is numero uno. It's right up there at the top. It's the most important thing you're going to do. So to breathe, you threw away the tongue to palate reflex, the lip seal. So you've gone from having this to this. Now, if you have weak muscles as well, what's going to happen to your face? It's going to drop down. And what I'm saying, and this is the only way this whole thing makes sense, is to accept that we are all deformed. You know, William, your face is too long. It's got long. So mine's a little bit too long. So is everyone's. Everyone you're going to meet out today or in the modern world, everyone is deformed. And it's, you know, I wish I was making this up, but if you go,
it's funny, but yeah.
I couldn't tell you if our ancestors had sleep apnea. I couldn't tell you if they had type 2 diabetes. We don't know. We think those are modern diseases. But I can tell you precisely where the teeth were, or still are, because we've got the skulls. It is. It sounds like a crazy proposition. This really hits everyone's belief system, their core belief system, but it's true. All the hard evidence in black and white says that's on the nail.
So then let's get even deeper into what exactly is going on. Because in doing research for this, some of the guys, we happened upon a video of a fairly famous YouTuber who tried what has been now dubbed as mewing.
Yes.
Right? Which is really cool. You know, but so he did it for 30 days. Now, I know that is not what you have described.
And he's far too old to really have made. I saw the guy, far too old really to have made.
I'm so curious because I bet, I don't know that you've ever spoken, you know, publicly about what his thing. And clearly, even in the top comments, people are saying, well, listen, this is not what he said. He did not say chew on some hard, you know, chew on a hard steak for a day and like you're going to have this chiseled jaw. That's not at all what you've, you know, been a proponent of. Nevertheless, it's brought some attention to it. So I think all in all, I think it's still a very, very good thing. And I definitely want to get into some of the things that he ended up having as benefits, even over the 30 days, like nasal breathing, which, you know, I think is interesting. But how long are we looking at? You know, how long do I have to do this exercise before something happens? And is there an age limit or what? I
mean, I clearly, William, I wasn't expecting this whole mewing movement. You know, I was putting information out there because I want to put the truth out there. I want people to know this. And, you know, this is where most of what I'm saying can be packaged up to stand up straight and shut your mouth.
I see.
Hardly a new idea. And if you get young children from the ages of about 3 or 4 up to about 10 years old to do this, it's profound. It's unbelievably profound. I mean, there's nothing new in this. I mean, from Confucius to the Victorians, they were all saying exactly the same thing. And it goes down to, you know, we've got this great exercise. You know that if you do a 10-minute brisk walk every day, it reduces your chance of getting a heart attack. Well, if you can get young kids to do 30 to 40 minutes exercise every day, it would be profound. So we have something called the mealtime exercise. This is a really good exercise. Fantastic. Totally secret. Don't tell anyone any of this, right? It is at the mealtime, because that's when you're using your mouth. Sit up straight, elbows off the table, eat with your mouth shut, chew your food properly. Don't food to you, not you to your food. Don't speak when you're eating. And then when you go to swallow, pause, chin tuck, and swallow. Now, I've added that last little bit in. But apart from that, that is probably the least secret exercise on this planet. Now, why was this being, up till the 60s, this was being absolutely enforced brutally. I mean, really quite brutally, all around the world. Then in the 60s, we threw out a lot of things. You know, we threw out sexism, racism, you know, loads of isms we duly needed to throw out. But sometimes I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there was some things, you know, stand up straight, shut your mouth. This is not a new idea. Now, it's really, really powerful under 10 years old. Up till about 25 years old, I think you can still make some serious good gains. I wasn't, when I gave these lectures, when I put this information out there, clearly I've been talking about young people, that below 10 years. That's the get I try to work on. Often I work on slightly older people. But I wasn't expecting the whole world to descend on this. And yet, if I'd thought cleverly, of course they would. Who doesn't want to be healthier and facially better formed? Natural. So I've seen results up till about 25 years old. And of course, it's dedication. And it is not easy to do this stuff. The number of people who I meet, I train with, I don't do much mewing training, but when I'm working with them with the equipment and braces and things, I'm reminding them to keep their lips together. And they just forget. It's just so easy to forget. Change is difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. However, why not? Why not try and self-improve yourself?
Yeah. And on top of that, what I find interesting, I mean, it touches on stuff that you said earlier, which is we have some weird desire now to kind of be pushed to resign to our own fate in society now. And I'm taking the long route around. You'll see where I bring it back. But we had a guy named Ben Patrick, who's the knees over toes guy. He is a former high-level basketball player who had, I think, 3 or 4 surgeries on his knees. And the doctors, of course, said, stop, please. Stop doing whatever you're doing because you're done. And he didn't accept that and came up with what is essentially just a simple set of exercises that can be done and he's called knees over toes. Essentially, what we do in modern sports and the modern idea and training is to never get your knees to go past your toes when you're doing like lifting or et cetera. What he thought is, well, what if I could just strengthen my ability to do that motion? Would that be able to strengthen my knees in case they do bend over? And he's had tremendous success. As a matter of fact, I've got all this equipment. He sent me all his equipment to train and do it myself. I've been doing it for quite some time. It's revolutionary. And I go from that and I go to, I'm not sure if you're aware of a guy named James Nestor.
James Nestor put me in his book.
Okay. Oh, so that was you he was talking about. Okay. So James and I have gotten to know each other, so I didn't know that was you. That's great. So yeah, I mean, and with the nasal breathing and with the fact that people, have just been like resigned to this. Like when I run, I open my mouth, I take in my air. This is how I run. I can't get any extra stamina, etc.
Yeah.
So why, I don't know when the switch or where the switch needs to happen, but something needs to happen for the society to understand that you can start to shift, all of these things.
Yes. I often, I term the face is not growing well. We term craniofacial dystrophy. Okay. Now, this is the biggest disease. It affects everyone. You are moderately to more than moderately affected. I see everyone affected in front of me, and no one has any idea of this or how it's affecting them. They have literally no idea. Let me give you some examples. I was talking to a surgeon recently who has come to very similar conclusions to me, but he's treating this with surgery, as you would, he's a surgeon. And I guess as you get older and older, that's probably a good adjunct to consider as well. Now, he was finding that he pulls the mid-face forwards. He pulls this segment of the face forwards. And one of the common things they say afterwards is how much better they are at sports. People saying that, look, I just thought I was a bad sportsman. I couldn't run. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do anything. Now I have halved my personal best. I'm streaming ahead of everyone else. And people are going, what's happened to you? Because they have never seen the like of it before. And if your top jaw set back that way, if you don't have decent cheekbones, it's going to have an effect. Duh.
Fascinating.
You know, a face that's not the right shape won't work properly.
It's so, I mean, obviously it makes perfect sense to me, but I think the problem is also that, like you said earlier, the breath is number one, breathing number one.
Yeah.
And we don't make that as athletes even. And I mean, I cannot tell you the amount. I've played all over the world. There's not a single, I've had fitness coaches. I've been at clubs. We got fitness, sports analysts, I mean, you name it. We have every single title for every type of thing. There's no one talking about your breath, your face, your jaw, how those things can be affected. It's all still based, I mean, with all their data and all the things, it's actually fascinating that there is nothing there. And
no. I'm in preparation for this event, because as I said, you know, William, lovely to be interviewed by someone from the sports field. I'd never even considered this before. Although clearly I'm in another book by Patrick McKeown on the oxygen advantage.
Mm.
And so he took the whole breathing thing in a slightly different way, and he was talking, bringing it to sports people. One of the things I want to talk about was the spirit runners. So this was your members of the Apache Nation in North America, who would have a rite of passage by which they would take a mouthful of water. They would have to do some really arduous trial. You know, this is a sort of manhood type event. They would go on this sort of task they would have to do. They would have to come back and then spit the water out in front of the chief and apparently their mother, to demonstrate they hadn't breathed through their nose. And apparently, if people were brought up to do this from a really young age, they were incredible athletes.
Do you mean breathe through their mouth? They had to show that they hadn't breathed through their mouth, not their nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
So they had to nose breathe. For this entire event, they had to have their mouth closed and nose breathing. And they were called the spirit runners. So these were the spirit runners. They were part of the Navajo Nation, the indigenous population of North America. And it's strange how frequently us practitioners don't put things into practice when we should. And a friend was talking to me about this. So he said, do you do that? And I'm thinking, I cycle home every day and I cycle up a really steep hill, and I was breathing through my mouth at the end of it, because I was actually thinking to myself, how hard do I need to go before I breathe out of my mouth? How hard before I need to instigate that bypass breathing? And I just said, okay, I'm going to stop that. Now, whenever I cycle home, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and I'm going to breathe exclusively through my nose.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing it. It was more difficult to start with, but I tell you, now I can do it. I'm definitely fitter. There's no way other to describe it. Literally doing the same exercise, but doing it with your mouth closed, breathing through this gadget that's kind of designed to do that.
Yeah, and it's actually, I've done the same, right? So James was actually on the podcast. Maybe now it's been just over a year. And I'd read the book before as well and started, and it's something that you can't quite understand. You have more energy. You have more of an ability to do the same things that you were doing. And the only thing that you changed was that. I mean, you can obviously, and we're going slightly off topic, but you can add in things like the Wim Hof breathing and all these other breath methods. And there's all sorts of things that you can do to kind of push that thing that, we all claim to be this top number one thing. But I'm curious, where do you think, two questions. Number one, why do you think, whether it was Apache or Navajo you mentioned, I'm not sure which one.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting very confused with these, but.
Yes. Okay. All right. I can't remember which one. Why do you think?
It was Apache Nation, I think.
Apache. Okay. How did they understand? Why? Like, if now we've gone how did we lose that knowledge? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it was the same knowledge as Confucius was saying when he told children to sit up straight with their mouth closed at dinner tables, elbows off the table, and the Victorians did this. There was the same individual, when people talk, they say, that phrase, shut your mouth or the wind will change and your face will set like that. When you look back in history, so right now, I'm saying it's very difficult to see the wood for the trees because most people's faces aren't grown properly. I know it's a really, really, really difficult to swallow statement to make, but it's true. Now, if you go back a few hundred years, even a few thousand years, most people's faces grow pretty well. In that environment, when someone's face didn't grow well, it was more obvious. And I think it was much easier to pick that out and say, look, there it is. That's wrong. We'll understand what was wrong about them. But, you see these guys walking around like this. It doesn't look good.
No.
And then quickly you realize that their face isn't growing well. And of course, where does that comment, the village idiot, come from? When you think of the village idiot, you see of someone like this.
Exactly.
With ears sticking out. That's a classical adenoidal face mouth breather.
Right.
We're now knowing that if you hang your mouth open like this, your tongue's going into your airway, that's going to reduce your oxygen saturation at night. That's going to smash your cognitive ability massively. So we've now got that validation for the village idiot.
And it takes, but the lists of benefits here are actually kind of insane now that you were starting to list this off, because you got cognitive abilities, your ability to stamina, your posture, your face is going to look better. It's like, there's this so many things.
You'll live longer, you'll be more intelligent, and your face will look better. Just take those three.
Yeah.
If I was selling anything, those three things must be top billing.
100%. And with that in mind, also you're mentioning, I'm curious where you think we're going, because it's very unlikely. Although it's got its. I don't know how common knowledge this is. I feel like I'm in a bubble because as an athlete, I'm in these circles, right? I can hear about things like this more or less, but I don't know where we're headed. Are we all going to just droop off? Distractions at all-time high, anxieties at all-time high. I don't know that we're getting smarter. I'm not sure. Some people are.
I kind of link all these together.
Okay.
I think that there's a few things we're doing now that I think is responsible for a huge amount of these underlying problems. And considering no one's even noticed what's going on with facial form. Back in 2009, I had I wrote an editorial for the British Dental Journal, so the big dental rag, and I simply said, we must have a debate on why teeth are crooked. I said, the General Dental Council, my lead body, held a debate in the 1920s. It's now 100 years later. Why don't we have another debate? And I then wrote to everyone and anything, and I just wrote, trying to say, look, guys, how can we have a profession where we're treating all of these kids and we openly admit, or the profession openly admits, they've got no idea on the cause of the problem. And we're treating up in certain areas, we're treating half of the kids.
Wow.
Half of them with a treatment. They've got no idea why the teeth are crooked. They've got no idea why they're doing it. And then when they finish, they have to give these kids retainers for the rest of their lives.
Jesus.
Lips together.
Yeah. I know. I'm gasping at the thing. That's hilarious.
And then I've written to everyone. I've written to the All-Party Dental Committee. I've written to the Minister of Health, the Royal Society, the General Dental Council, the British Orthodontics. Everyone. I was just saying, look, we've got to have a debate. Now they're taking me to court to take my license away.
Really? Okay, so that's what I wanted to get into. I was going to ask, how come?
Yeah.
How come, given what you have as an understanding and the fact that it's resonating with a whole lot of people?
Yes, because it's
with
clearly
pure logic.
true.
I can completely understand. I can follow that logic.
one of those things you kind of don't want to almost admit. But once you overcome that hurdle, you suddenly go, wow, this, as I said, William, the only people who are interested in what I'm saying are people with faces. But if you happen to have a face, this is going to change your whole mindset on so many things.
But why this? I understand the idea that you're going against an entire profession, but why can't the profession shift? Why can't everybody within the profession shift and still make? Is it the money? Is it just money?
Who makes money? A dietitian or a liposurgeon?
Okay. I see.
Who's making the real health benefit?
Right.
Fixing things makes money. Preventing things doesn't make money. But, why can't we, just through inaction, why we couldn't be telling all school teachers to remind the kids to sit up straight, shut their mouths, telling parents how important this is, chewing some gum. I've averted this problem in quite a few kids, just chewing gum. It's made a big difference in my kids. My sister's kids particularly. My sister's a sports physio. She was the Paralympic lead physio for the Paralympics at home. So she was, she's well in sports. She doesn't do football, but she's done lots of other sports. And she's good at enforcing exercises. She got her kids just to chew gum after school till dinner, between school, home from school and bedtime in the evenings. Made a massive difference to their facial development. Massive. It's crazy.
Even though I did not, I did breathe through my mouth every once in a while playing and doing.
You breathe more often than you think you do, William. Through your mouth.
Do I? Or is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh no. Without a doubt. And it's crazy because even it makes me wonder, what was I doing before the knowledge of that? Where consciously being in training, making sure I'm not taking breaths, making sure that when I go out for this run, et cetera, that I'm breathing through my nose. And so I have done lip taping, and I can't remember, is it Anders Olsen? I believe it's Anders Olsen, who's also, by the way, in the book as well. He's in Sweden, and I happen to have been in Sweden, and I went in and did all these tests and all this stuff and did a training with my mouth completely taped and did all this stuff. It was fascinating, all the stuff that they're understanding about how it really works. But what should we do? Okay, chewing gum is one. Lip taping, which I don't even think you've even explained properly here, which you can go ahead. But what else should we be doing? What can someone do?
Okay, it's quite complicated to describe what you should be doing with inside your mouth. But basically, we should have our tongue stuck onto the roof of the mouth, sucked up into place. And that does so much for your body posture. If I push my tongue, you'll see my tongue going up and you'll see my body posture improve. Then I'll let it drop and you'll see me drop down. And you can see as I let go, the whole thing falls apart. Your tongue is the secret to good body posture. What it is, it's the missing column of head support. You should have a head support here holding you up. Mm-hmm. And that's your tongue. I walk around. Everyone is walking around like this. Maybe they've closed their mouth because as you hit puberty, you realize you look stupid with your mouth open. So they close their mouth, but they've still got this for everyone, usually like this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, phones haven't helped. This whole, we went from looking for predators on prey on the horizon to looking at televisions to desktops to laptops to tablets, and we're paying the consequences. But that's not the only cause, because most people, they don't have enough craniofacial development that if they stand up straight, they've got no space here. And that's what we're not doing. You would struggle with that, William.
Really?
And that's now so common. I would struggle with it even a little bit. And of course, you've got this angel on one side saying, I need to stand up straight. I've got to get good head posture. I know what Mike says. It makes a load of sense. And you've got the devil on the other side that says, breathe. And that just hits your body posture. And I don't have all the answers. I mean, really, the answer's mewing. You know, if I could plug into the back of your cerebellum and reprogram your parameters, that's all I should do. You should completely correct yourself.
Right.
It's amazing what slow, long-term pressure will do on things.
Yeah, and I think that's just another principle of habits and changing routines and stuff like that. It's that if you can get that habit, you can really, really do some stuff. Those small habits really will add up, especially in something like this, whether you're an athlete or not. And that's because that's actually how it happens too. You don't have good posture and wake up and you slouch. Or you don't start as the skinny fit guy and then you're 300 pounds overweight overnight. It's this slow grind to that point, and then you wake up and then you're there. And so it's funny because when we go to fix those things, we immediately want them to be right. You know, give me 30 days and then I'm good. And then I don't want to ever do it again. I don't want to ever have to do this.
No. Also, we're in an era of medicine where people want to, here, doc, I've got the money, make me better. And, you know, almost, you know, if I went outside and I got run over by a red double-decker bus, I'd want modern medicine on my side. And modern medicine, for acute medicine, it's been fantastic. Absolutely down the line, brilliant. You know, blood transfusions, anesthetics, antibiotics, you know, fantastic. But if I had a chronic problem, well, you know, we could almost say it's about time modern medicine puts its finger up and says, anyone else got some good ideas around here? And you could probably sort of say for most modern medicine, or most chronic diseases are related to the disjunct between how we evolved to live and how we are living. You know, we evolved to be a hunter-gatherer, you know, to be on the go, to be an athlete. And they were fantastic athletes. They had to be. It was them against the animal, or to gather as well. And you had to put the hours in to find things. But we've changed too fast. We've changed our environment faster than we've evolved. And that's causing the sticking points, you know, where we're not used to having a fridge and a larder stacked with food available all the time whenever you want it.
So where does that take us, though? What's going to happen in another 50 years, 40 years, 100 years? What's going to happen?
Okay, so now I think this problem, faces not growing correctly, is leading to sleep apnea. I think it's to put simply, as your face lengthens, the cross-sectional area reduces. Less space for the teeth, the tongue, and the airway. That's the overview. I went to see a sleep expert a while ago, and I told him that I thought 10% or more of the population were going to be dying 10 years younger because of sleep apnea and its consequences. And he goes, Mike, it's closer to 20. Now, the people who are dying at 60, 70 years old now, well, when they were young, they had tougher food. They were enforced with stricter posture. They didn't have such crooked teeth. So I'm expecting that 20% to raise up to 30%, if not 40%. And that is, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I think we're headed for, fairly soon we just won't be able to deny this problem that is literally staring us in the face. It is our faces. We don't want to admit it because we just want to believe this is our identity.
So have you seen some of the guys that have these balls or types of things? I can't remember the name of some of them. You must have seen some of these guys with the balls that you chew on. I can't remember this guy. There's a bunch of them. You
mean the chisel or the jaw slicer? Sure. These things, you do this.
Yeah, you basically are chewing on this like rough ball type thing all the time.
Thing to strengthen up the jaws. I mean, one of them, a jaws incisor, contacted me. I had a chat with him. He wanted me to promote the thing. And it was that point I decided I'm not going to promote anything. I don't have to.
Sure.
I'm broke all the time, chronically, but I'm not going to take quick money to if it affects people's vision of me being impartial, because I want to be impartial. That's important.
Sure.
And
I mean, yeah.
I talked to him and I tried one of these out, and I've seen some really good results with them. Whenever people get into jaw chewing, just be careful of your jaw joints. This is what you've got to be careful of, these joints here.
What specifically?
If you have any clicking when you open, and to check that, put your thumb on your shoulder, little fingers in your ears, open, feel within the joint, feel the noises of clicking. If any sign of that, listen, you've got other problems. Don't go on a chewing marathon. But if you don't have problems there and you've got a wide opening, more than your middle three fingers, well, then you can try chewing.
I see.
And, use it or lose it. And I've seen some great results with this. And, it doesn't, I'm not getting anything out of this. I mean, we are about to release a Mewing app.
Okay. That's cool.
It's not out there at the moment. Someone else has got a Mewing app out there. I downloaded it. I wasn't desperately impressed, but it's got good marketing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's, as you know, that's enough. That's enough these days. I mean, they do the same thing within our thing. I go on rants every once in a while in our company about footballers who aren't pros, who've never played and done anything. But hey, if they have some good marketing, they got a good camera, they start telling people how to do stuff, and all of a sudden, they got, it does annoy me. That's part of the
personal rant there.
Modern world. Yeah. So, but I was going to ask as well, because instead of these, okay, the jaw thing, whatever that's called, is one thing. But your colleagues who aren't interested in discussing this, are there even advances? Because the braces and the types of things, I never had any. I never had anything in my teeth. I have quite straight, excellent teeth. And so I feel blessed, and I didn't know. And of course, before knowing any of this stuff, I assumed it's all genetic, whatever. But your colleagues who aren't willing to admit this, or aren't willing to even go down this route, really,
they don't even want to communicate with me. So my father has been trying to gain just any form of scientific engagement for best part of 50 years. Never had it. Not interested.
None. I get that it's a complete threat to them. It's still shocking to me as someone from on the outside, because that's not what we need. And I know that, I mean, we could link this up to, just like you said, in the society, give me a pill for this, give me a one-day fix for this, give me that. And when clearly we're just masking these. I was in the US maybe a month ago on break, and there was a commercial we do this famously. Our pharmaceutical commercials are notorious for, tell your doctor that you'd like to try whatever, this pill, and it'll help. At the end of one of these, it said, hey, are you taking a pill? I can't remember whatever it was. This, jaw pill. Are you taking jaw pill? Well, guess what? Is it not working? Try the second pill. It was an advertisement to tell you that if you're taking a pharmaceutical and it's not working, we've got this pill which will amplify the effects of the first one. And for me, I was like, where does this end exactly? How do I, because there's no mention of a solution. It's just like, you got this pill? Great. Let's give you another one. And
William, going back to that analogy of the dietitian and the liposurgeon. The dietitian rides his bicycle. He parks it outside the hospital, chain link fence. The liposurgeon has his private reserved space for his Ferrari. And he's on all the committees. He's, because he brings the bucks in. And he's dictating the direction of the hospital and how they run things, because, again, he brings the bucks in. Whereas the dietitian, probably doesn't even know when the committee meetings are.
It's crazy to think that it's that simple, though.
It's a brutal analogy, but it holds a lot of truth. A lot of truth in that. prevention doesn't make money. And I can
get it.
understand that in somewhere like the US, where it's a very much a privately driven system. But you come to the UK, well, most of that orthodontics is being paid for by the state.
Okay. I see.
But so where, and I just, it's crazy. So we're pleased, anyone listening, we ran a campaign on a website called Prevent Crooked Teeth. We have a petition. Please go and sign that petition if I can market that petition. Please, because that's what we need to do. I'm screaming out for prevention. I'm screaming out that we need to do engagement within my profession on why are teeth crooked. And then clearly I'm going to court. I'm going to court on a case where the orthodontic expert, the guy who judges you, the orthodontic expert for the prosecution is saying, malocclusion's genetic. There's nothing you can do. I'm thinking, hang around, I wouldn't be here if the General Dental Council had done what they should have done and re-held the debate they held in the 1920s, now 100 years later, on why are teeth crooked. They've got their logo protecting patients, regulating the profession. What part of protecting patients doesn't mean you should find out the cause of the problem people are treating?
And I mean, I would love to hear, that that you actually get this debate going. Do you have any? I mean, you clearly you have some.
I'll get it going in court. I mean, it's the only way I've got. I mean, I'm going to have to.
You have no choice.
I have no choice. Yeah. But they say don't go into court if you don't have a UK expert, and of course, there's no UK experts. Then they say don't try to rubbish one of the experts ever. And never try and rubbish both experts against you. Now, I'm going into court without an expert of my own. I'm going to rubbish both opposition experts. Right. And really, we should be having this debate in a scientific arena. A free, fair, and full debate. I mean, it's just what has happened to science when it comes to this?
That is a great question, because I think it extends out, and obviously not just in your field, but when we're trying to discuss, there should be nothing should be off limits.
No. Think the unthinkable, consider the impossible, except if it threatens the foundation of what you do. And then don't think about it at all. Brush it under the carpet, tell people to sod off.
Yeah. Then it also makes me wonder how we've actually made. Clearly, this wasn't the case for hundreds of years, that there wasn't this establishment curse of, great, we've pretty much solved, or maybe it has. I really don't know. Maybe I'll just put that question out to you. When did we stop becoming curious? When money gets involved, and we've got these professions that aren't willing to go look, like you said, the pharmaceutical, I don't even know how many billions of dollars they've got. Like, there's no reason for them to say, well, we haven't made enough effect, I guess we should stop. They're not going to do that.
You're now familiar with a patient coming in, opening a binder up, and you can see Google written across the top of these sheets. And this patient will know more about their particular problem than most doctors will, sometimes even the most specialists. And why not use that knowledge and that value? At the moment, we've got almost this battle going on between the expert and the patient. But the patient is often expert at their problem. And I tell you, they have more first-hand experience of that problem than any consultant, because they live it.
They live it, which makes sense to listen to them,
listen to them. Useful. And we just need a place at the table for the patient. And we need to have this stuff out in the open. And particularly when it comes to chronic diseases, we don't have all the answers. And often it comes down to an individual consultant and their ego.
I've seen that. My mom, who passed away just a few years ago, had a traumatic brain injury. Yeah, she, and there's nothing probably even more so where we are clueless than when it comes to the brain and to how things are working there. We have absolutely no idea what's going on. We know 0.1%, and that's great because we can know some things, but it's pathetic, truly.
At least they admit that.
They do admit that. That much they do. They do admit that they have no idea what's going on. But even then, speaking to some of these doctors about, hey, well, what can we get more practical on? What specifically we can? Nothing. I'm like, well, you don't have any direction. You don't have any. Well, we could do X, Y, and Z. We could just give you this pill, that pill, and the other. And you start to slowly, because being an outsider in it, of course, is one thing. You think maybe when you go to the doctor and when you go to these places that they have an answer. There's not going to be a person. If I did an interview on the street, we do interviews on the street. This is actually a good question. If we asked, do dentists and orthodontists, do they know why your teeth are crooked? If we asked 10 people, every single one of them would say that you guys have the answer, know the answer to every single one. No one has any idea that is a best case scenario, or they don't even, or that they're not even concerned about why they're crooked.
They don't know and are not interested.
Yeah. And that would not be the prevailing thought. So when you think about that, that's the case, that they're not really too interested. And then you think that when you have a problem, you go to them and say, here, and they're just like, well, this is what we do. The true answer then, it sounds like that this is what we do. And we're just stuck in this little time bubble in our current society. That's what we do. So whatever.
That happens in medicine far too often.
Mm-hmm.
Far too often. I mean, there are some areas of medicine that are raging ahead and changing, and others that don't. But it's this, you've got to balance this protecting the patient against having complete experimenters in. If you've got a new web application, or you've got the new piece of technology, hey, someone can give it a go, try something new, see how it works here, see how it works there. And if they make a great success, they can set up a unicorn. Some startup, they can make their millions, roll on.
Mm.
You've got to be a little more cautious when it comes to people's health.
Agreed.
There's no question about that. But the problem is the caution or the system you put in place can easily then prevent further innovation, just prevent any innovation and any change.
I see.
We talk about, we always want these randomized clinically controlled trials in medicine, and we don't have any for my specialty, because, what I do, because it's just so incredibly expensive. However, we've done adequate enough that the institutions that look at us should come and investigate. Did they just turn their nose up and they tell us to prove it? Well, they're getting the public money. They should come and spend some of that on us. It's a bit different in sports, because you don't do a randomized clinically controlled run. You come first. That's all you need to do, is cross that line before anyone else. And if you do that, you're first. That's it. And then they want to know who your coach was, what your diet was, what your regimes are. Then they're all interested. Now, I believe that we're gaining the best facial outcomes in the world. I can't validate that because no one will compare their facial outcomes with me.
Right.
But I believe I'm winning that race. I believe I get bronze, silver, and gold frequently, with a couple of individuals around the world who are competing with me. But most people don't even know this is possible.
No, that's the point. That's the huge point.
And too often, people have no idea. Well, if I can get you to, if you are going to send your child to orthodontics, if you're going to have orthodontics, take some bloody photographs from the side of your head. Because if I can make faces better, is there a chance that some orthodontic techniques could make faces worse?
I see.
Because then we go into the really toxic area. And this is the area I think they hate me for the most.
Which is specifically that
if you could make faces less good. Remember the three things I said? If I can make someone's face better, I think I'm increasing the length of their life. I'm increasing their intelligence rating, and I'm making them more attractive. What happens if you make the face worse?
So then by your theory, essentially our modern techniques are making us stupider, less attractive.
I'm not saying this. I'm worried. I just want to debate. You know,
Okay.
I want an open debate, and the way this debate was handled in America by the American American Association of Orthodontics. Well, I think, you know, it's going to be a stain on our industry. You know, when you have a debate, you make sure everyone is invited.
I get
You
that.
don't
That's
exclude people who could add something very valuable, and the whole thing needs to be done much more openly because, we're storing up problems for the future.
Yeah. Listen, I was going to say, guys, obviously you have a fairly large, I say fairly large, you got a large YouTube channel where you put out a whole lot of information.
Yeah, I haven't been putting out much recently. I tell you what, this really hits your psyche, being accused, and massively. You know, some days I just don't want to get out of bed in the morning. To get out of bed, to get out from under the duvet, come down to work, to continue to do this same thing. I make no money from what I do. I'm just waiting. I work incredibly hard. I realize the risks I'm taking every day. Simply doing what I'm doing is considered unethical by my critics, and I consider what they're doing as less ethical.
What it is.
And it's this debate, and that's what you have in medicine. You're supposed to have these debates. You're not supposed to take people to court on it. We're supposed to debate. We're supposed to have a conversation.
Well, a lot
because
of times,
it's such an unfair situation when you go to court like this.
Yeah, I was just going to say though,
It's
a lot
really
of
unfair.
times
This
you
isn't
come
science.
out.
I have to validate. It's a really, you know, it's hard. And as I said, I'm sorry I'm not putting as much up on my YouTube channel, but it's really hard.
No, I think there's a wealth of information there for guys to go.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there anywhere else you want us to send guys to check things out?
I would say please sign the petition on Prevent Crooked Teeth. Go to the Orthotropic YouTube channel. I should have my app out hopefully by the middle of August. I've said this before, but clearly, you know, I work 12 hours most days. I really work hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm doing the best. You know, I'm just trying to make the world a better place. And I don't seem to be getting any favors for it.
That's a lot of times how it is. So I just hope you keep going, because I think that, you know, as things happen, movements, especially in these times, can be just like you didn't know the effect you were going to have. I mean, it could just be right around the corner where some real push opens up the floodgates. So we will link to everything, guys. If you're just listening to this, it's in the show notes.
Yeah.
If it's on YouTube, then of course it's in the description box. And when you get the app all out and ready, just let us know. We'll link that up here in the video and spread the news. But thanks a ton, you know, for all this.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed, sir. All the best with your career.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right, guys. We'll see you later.